Today on the Disney Marathon, we are going to be looking at Dumbo, and there's quite a lot to say about this movie despite its short run time, so let's get into it. In 1939, this thing called a roll-a-book, a weird way of consuming books, mostly for kids, where you roll it instead of turning pages, was patented, and only one was ever released. One of the books was going to be Dumbo, and yeah, it never got published. So this is really kind of the first Disney movie that's original, even though it technically existed beforehand. The last two Disney movies did not perform well because they had a big budget, and because of the World War II, they weren't able to be showcased in Europe, which is a big market for Disney stuff, so yeah. Because I can't really find that much information on the book or even find a physical copy of it because it doesn't really exist, kind of does, I'm not actually going to compare Dumbo to its original source material because there really isn't anything to compare to. Essentially, Disney made an original movie that was loosely based off of something that was never published. Because of this, Dumbo had half the budget of those films, well, Pinocchio at least, and a third a budget of Snow White. If you're an acute viewer, you can kind of notice this, however, the movie makes up for it very well. So yeah, the backgrounds are so flat and sometimes don't really exist at all, like the famous Pick Elephant scene, which really has no background. The scenes aren't as big in this movie, but it's kind of a smaller film in general. It's a more personal and down-to-earth film, which is kind of why I like it quite a bit. The production of the film was surprisingly even got made because most of the animators went on strike during this time because of unfair wages. And it's been said in this film that there's actually a reference to, as it's been said, that these clowns here, when they're talking about their boss and wanting to hit him for a raise, is a reference to the animators. However, I don't really see why the animators would animate this scene. According to someone who worked on the movie, this is not the case, and the scene was worked on before that. However, it is pretty, looking more into this, it's pretty unlikely that this scene was based off that, but maybe it was the guy who did, apparently was an animator on this scene, was actually one of the heads of the strike, which says, yeah, it's not true, but yeah, we did want higher wage. With the more basic of background to Dumbo, it's actually unique to say this is the only few Disney movies who use a watercolor background, Snow White being one of them, but with less detail. With the film Lilo and Stitch, one of the reasons why they used watercolor background was because of Dumbo, and they have kind of similar themes, a more grounded story with more character-based animation, and they're both really good movies, but we're not happy. So RKO distributed the movie, but they weren't happy. You see, the movie was 5 minutes under the time, and it could not be considered an A movie, it had to be considered a B movie, which is not good. They're like, here's the list of demands. If you don't do this, Walt Disney, we won't showcase your movie. And he said, no. And they're like, okay, we'll distribute it anyway. I don't know, I find that really funny. Luckily for Dumbo, unlike Pinocchio and Fantasia, because the movie's small budget and surprise, it was a smash hit, making $1 million, which is like, do the inflation for me on your own term. It did pretty well for itself, even winning the Academy Award for, I meant to say Best Original Score, by the way. Sorry, I said sound. So in researching, I did find this tidbit that I thought was interesting, but I can't really get the exact thing on it, so you guys can let me know because I can't really figure it out for myself. But Dumbo's supposed to be on Time Magazine, which doesn't really mean anything to me, but as Mammal of the Year. But I'm not sure if it's replacing Man of the Year or whatever. I can't even find this exact issue it was going to be. But yeah, this is what the magazine was going to be from December 8, 1941, but it got scrapped. And I don't know exactly which one it did because I can't find this other one. The other one I see is because of the war, and, you know, that's what happened. In case you're wondering, is because of Pearl Harbor, which happened a day before December 8th, which is a day that lives in infamy. Not to get all war on you guys, but World War II is going to be a very big thing with Disney. But my problem with this is that I can't figure out what the original magazine was. This is something like because every other magazine cover I see is always the World War II stuff, even though America hasn't been in World War II yet. So I'm very confused why Dumbo will be on one of the covers. So let me know in the comments below what the heck the situation even is. So basically, Dumbo was a huge success, and let's take a look at why people loved it so much. Dumbo's a pretty interesting movie if you're into voice actors because we would get the introduction of two recurring Disney voices. The first one is Sterling Holloway, whose voice is very distinctive. You might know him best as Winnie the Pooh, but he also voiced the Cheshire Cat and Kaa and some other minor characters in a bunch of Disney movies. So this is the first movie he voiced a character. The other voice actor is Verna Felton, I hope I said that right, who voices Dumbo's mom and also the head women elephant. I don't know if she has a name, just the bitchy one. And she would go on to voice the fairy god. In Dumbo, babies come from storks. You ever heard that saying? Well, yeah, I don't really understand it, but I guess people are like, they want to tell their kids that their parents had sex. So, after all this, you're probably wondering, well, what's the movie about? Well, I'll give a short little rundown of the actual film and some of the scenes, just to let you guys know. So all the circus animals are getting their own babies from fallen packages, and they're all happy. You see, Mrs. Jumbo, who, that's her name by the way, in case you're wondering, doesn't get a little baby, and that makes her sad. Well, not really, because she gets a baby the next minute. Also, the one elephant has a giant egg. Oh, in case you didn't know, circuses used to be a thing with animals and stuff. I think they still exist, but the animals part of it doesn't, because, it was kind of cruel to do this, to lock them up and do this, especially the elephants, because they don't work very well in this conditions. But yeah, it's kind of weird because this whole movie's set around. Noah, seriously, let me know. Have any of you guys been to a circus recently or know about any? Because I swear I don't see it. I see carnivals arise, but not like a big. Anyway, we can see that the characters are in Florida because if you look up above from the map, you'll see that the state. Also, in this version of events, it looks like Florida's panhandle took over Alabama's panhandle, so now it's a landlocked state. Looking at this map is really confusing because I know it's supposed to be like a little joke fantasy, but as a person who loves geography, it really does bother me. Mississippi looks like that weird like circle out there. I know we love our square corners in European geography. The Europeans who made these geographical changes and made like straight lines, stuff like that, which doesn't really make much sense. But everything here just looks terrible. I guess I can see New York in the background there. But yeah, it looks like South Carolina is there, but then North Carolina is just the whole upper northeast. Okay, I'm done looking at this map. Anyway, this stork guy here, who has the voice of Winnie the Pooh, is like, oh shit, I'm late because I'm not good at my job. Well, maybe he isn't good at his job. He sings a little song. And what do you know? In there is Baby Dumbo, or Jumbo Jr. is what his name is, but everyone calls him Dumbo, and they stick with that because they think he's dumb looking because he has big ears. It's funny that his name is basically saying he's dumb the whole time, and I gotta say, even though everyone makes fun of Dumbo, he is absolutely adorable. One thing that makes him work very well is that he's the protagonist, but he doesn't say a single word at all. He doesn't speak, and that's very unique. Some movies, if they have a character like that, they won't be the main focus, and Dumbo kind of isn't, but at the same time, we do see this whole weird world through his little baby eyes. So then we get to this scene, where all the elephants and specific type of people are working to build the tent. Now, some people have criticized this scene because these people. So this scene is apparently racist because they're black. Now, from doing a little bit of research, apparently that was just a design decision more than anything because of the dark, stormy night. Also, if you haven't noticed in this scene, what else is working? The elephants. Who is the main character of the movie? So what are they trying to correlate here? Even if they were African American, they're basically showing they're hardworking, much like the elephants are. So they're one and the same in this terrible circus environment. It's not focused on that much, but that's what I get out of it. Plus, I kind of wish the movie did dive into more of the bad environment of the circus. However, the problem is the ending's kind of rushed, and you see some jackass kid decides to make fun of the baby and also fuck with his ears, and that makes. So far in the movie, other than having to work for the carnival, it's not been so bad for Baby Dumbo. So because of this, Mrs. Jumbo decides to give him a spanking, and something about that is. So they decide to lock her away, keeping her away from Dumbo, inside of her own cavern. For some reason, the other elephants are all women, by the way, are like, fuck Dumbo, I hate him, he smells like shit. Like, they really hate him, they're gossipy bitches. But looking for Dumbo, he actually makes a friend with this mouse guy. He's like Jiminy Cricket. Jiminy Cricket actually was a functioning, working character. Because he actually helps out Dumbo, even though he seems to have a bit of an ego, like wanting to be in show business. Not really in him, but Dumbo. The rest of the movie showcases how bitchy the rest of the elephants are and how bad the circus is so bad. And in order to cheer Dumbo up, he's like, let me take. Which brings us the tearjerker in the movie, which we didn't seen since, Snow White, where they're cuddling, they play a song about how you're my baby. Following this, we get one of the most famous or infamous scenes in the movie, where Dumbo gets jerked. Someone spiked the water here. Well, the clowns accidentally did that. And now Dumbo is drunk. And his reason being drunk because for some reason he starts to visualize pink elephants that are really weird. It's entirely pointless, but it's just a bunch of crazy nonsense, but animated in such an entertaining way that's hard to look away from. But you don't know what. If there's one thing to see out of Dumbo, it's this sequence, because it's so weird, but it does make you feel like you're on something. And once it's done, it's done. This is where we're introduced to the crows, which I just forget about this weird, crazy scene because it's not brought. The crows are actually based off this group called the Hall Johnson Choir, who voiced them other than the main crow. And they got a guy they worked with previously on Pinocchio, Cliff Edwards, to do the main one. And because he voiced the character of Jiminy Cricket, they decided, we'll call him Jim. So some people say these crows are racist. Well, let me tell you, they are. So really the only problem is that these guys are kind of stereotypical, but they're kind of based directly off people, and to be called that stereotypical, I don't know what the problem is. Other than the one crow, they're all voiced by black actors, so I guess you can make fun of your own race, but I don't really view it that way. Plus, these are the only characters that aren't, like, negative characters to Dumbo. They actually help him out, so I can't help but... Plus, I like their song. That is my interpretation, but you guys let me know in the comment section below what you think about this. Even though they think it's kind of funny that Dumbo supposedly can fly, they're like, hey, we'll see if we can help him out by giving up a placebo effect, by giving them a feather. But yeah, they actually helped Dumbo fly, so that's pretty cool of them. The most iconic scene in the movie, which happens... Yeah, so the thing that Dumbo's most known for happens in the last 10 to 15 minutes of the movie. But yeah, it kind of... Unfortunately for the rest of the movie, which had a pretty good pace, just goes by. Dumbo also gets his revenge on the elephants who are mean to him by shooting them with peanuts. And then the movie kind of ends really fast. We get a bunch of newspapers saying that Dumbo's the best ever, and I guess he takes over the circus, kind of. And yeah, pretty much off-screen, Dumbo's mom is freed, and they get reunited, and I guess they do circus stuff? I don't really know. It was kind of vague, but oh well, they're together. It's simple and it's sweet. It's very passion-filled, even though there's not a lot. Other than this very quick ending, I actually don't have a lot of problems with Dumbo, even the quote-unquote racist stereotypes. Though you couldn't just not get into this movie, but a lot of people at the time, and even people to this day, still love this film. But some people just don't. I personally really like it. It has pretty good pacing, you know, it goes by a little too fast near the end, and I think it's a really charming film. And Dumbo was the first ever animated movie to go on VHS in 1981. Here's what the VHS copy looked like. And if you're wondering about VHS rarity, this one's a lot more rare than your other ones. Disney VHS has a whole thing on it, the Disney Vault and all that stuff. Someone already made video on that, so go watch that if you haven't on the Disney Vault. That gives you an idea about Disney's weird releasing of VHSs. They're all common nowadays. Some of this earlier stuff, it has a little bit more value, but not like a lot. If you see anything with Black Diamond, by the way, it's worth nothing unless you just want it yourself. I have way too many Black Diamond tapes, to say the least. They're not rare. Dumbo was also set to have a direct-to-VHS sequel, which would have been, at this point, our first one to actually be noteworthy, since Snow White didn't have one, Pinocchio didn't have one, and Fantasia had an actual sequel, not a direct-to-DVD or VHS sequel. It was being worked on in 2001, but it was canceled in 2006. It would have been directed by the guy who did Joseph King and Dreams. For some review on that, the movie's not very great, but who knows. Honestly, this concept for Dumbo 2 doesn't sound bad. In fact, I think Dumbo, of all the earlier Disney films, works. I don't think it would be a bad idea for a direct-to-video sequel, because you can actually do some things with it. And it sounds like they actually had not a bad idea. Dumbo and some other baby circus animals get lost from the circus and are into a large city, and Dumbo has basically to save these ones. Apparently there were twin bears, a zebra, a hippo, and an ostrich. And they were apparently different metaphors of different stages of childhood. It was supposed to be taking place immediately after the first film, apparently. It was even going to explain Dumbo's dad, whose name was Jumbo, which is where the guy's name from, in case you're wondering. That's why his mom's called Mrs. Jumbo. I mean, it could have been interesting, to say the least. I mean, it could have been bad, because some of them turned out bad, but some of the directed to VHS/DVD Disney sequels aren't terrible. In fact, some of them, I would say, are good. It is a crapshoot, though. This one actually sounded like it had some promise, and if it had, like, some good writing behind it, but, you know, as soon as John Lasseter became chief executive of Walt Disney Animation Studios, it was canceled. You can still see some elements of this film on behind-the-scenes DVDs and stuff like that. Dumbo actually had his own TV show known as Dumbo Circus, which ran from 1983, or 93, but 1980, well, yeah, it did air from, because this thing's telling me it started airing in 83, but then the original run says 85 to 86, so I'm going to say 85 to 86. 115 episodes. It was similar to this other TV show around the same time on Disney Channel, which was a new thing when this came out, known as Pooh's Corner, but that one seemed to be more successful. The weird thing about this is that Dumbo apparently talked, which is kind of weird, since, you know, he was famous for not talking in the movie. I don't think it did that well since it's never been really released. I do believe it's on Disney Plus, so if you want to watch it there, go ahead. I don't really know anything about it. But yeah, there's a lot of episodes, if you're wondering. Instead of a sequel, we got a live-action remake. If you've seen my previous Disney videos, this is a series, so I recommend watching it. You know that I hate the live-action remakes. In fact, most people who like the Disney animation or animation in general hate live-action remakes because they kind of go against what the original movies are about. And you can tell Dumbo is terrible. Dumbo is barely a part of it. He looks like an abomination. Looks fucking ugly as shit. This is one of Tim Burton's most phoned-in movies. Luckily, he seemed to be returning with Wednesday, and hopefully Beetlejuice 2 is good. But this movie was an embarrassment. I haven't seen it, but what I've seen, the clips I've seen look terrible. Like, literally awful. Some terrible acting, terrible effects, and did misunderstanding the source material to a degree that's insane. Though it is fair to say that Dumbo is one of the most iconic Disney characters from the movies, at least, kind of synonymous with Disney rather than even from his own movie. He'll appear in weird things like Disney on Ice with a giant costume. He was there at the beginning of Disney, opening at Disneyland. He appears in Roger Rabbit. He appears everywhere. Let's go on to his iconic rides in Disney. One of Disney's most iconic ride is Dumbo Flying Elephant, which is a basic kids ride where you fly outside Dumbo. It's in every Disney park from Disneyland, Disney World, Disney Paris, Disney. This ride is so iconic that one of the car rides from Disneyland was been donated to the Smithsonian. That's how iconic this ride. Another Dumbo ride was there for the first day at Disneyland that still exists, known as the Casey Jr. Circus Train. You know, the train from the movie. And it's a basic children's ride where people just go in the train and go around for a very short time in the Storybook Circus, part of Fantasyland, where Dumbo's Flying Elephant ride is Disney World. We had our own Casey Jr. thing that was completely different. It was Casey Jr. Splash and Soak Station. It opened in June 22. Pretty recently, a new experience has been added to Disney World, where these things called Smell-a-Fents, where you gotta find each of the elephants based off a scent, a sticker there, kind of. It's kind of... Also, the Disney Wiki needs to be updated, because I thought this Casey Jr. ride closed in 2012. Well, what do I see in the background here in recent day? It's the same Casey Jr. thing. So turns out I made a mistake. I saw it opening and opening date, thought it was opening and closing date, but no, I was completely wrong, so you can ignore that part. Apparently, Downsboat is gone forever. R.I.P. Speaking of which, in Disney World, the known as the Storybook Circus area is pretty much inspired by Dumbo, even though it's not entirely themed that way. So there's other little experiences here, but this more younger kid area definitely. And that's pretty much it for Dumbo, the Disney parks. Now let's go to the... Alright, here is the current Disney film ranking. I didn't know where to put Dumbo. I actually knew where I was going to put it, but I didn't know if it should go front of Snow White or before Snow White. I think if I had a stronger ending, I might have put it ahead, but Snow White, I think, clutches it in the very end. Plus, it doesn't have any problems with me having to defend racial stereotypes. Even though it kind of doesn't, but, you know, we already discussed that in this movie, so yeah. You get the gist of it. Dumbo's a pretty good film. I had no idea who to include from Dumbo as a villain. You can count the clowns, but they're really just trying to get their job done. The ringmaster is kind of more of a buffoon than anything. I guess the elephants, but I didn't feel like counting them, so I counted that one kid, and that's it. Smitty. His name is Smitty. That kid can go screw himself. The reason why I went through those because the song stuff we gotta talk about. There's quite a few songs. They don't really have that much impact, but yeah, as you can see, there is quite many songs in here. I believe it's 7 in total. So we'll go from lowest to highest on the tier list. So at the bottom for E tier, we got Hit the Big Boss for a Raise. It's lasts like 10 seconds. The clowns sing it and they say they want to get a raise. And yeah, it's not very interesting, but it's not bad. So it's an E tier. If it sounded bad, I would put an F tier. Then we got Rustabouts. Even though I talked about the scene, how it's actually been misinterpreted, the song isn't very interesting. The visuals are, but yeah, everything else is just eh. Look out for Mr. Stork's producer song, because it kind of is interesting, but the way they sing it, it sounds like they're trying to kill somebody. Like, Stork will come after you no matter what you do. Like, what? That's weird. The way it's said, it's like, huh? Huh? But in the actual visuals, no one's trying to run away. In fact, most of the people are happy to see the baby. But it seems like the way the song's written, like, you're going to get this baby whether you like it or not. And that's kind of weird. But oh well. In C tier, we have Casey Jr. Pretty short song, but it's pretty catchy. That's why it's in C tier. C tier for catchy. Then we have Pink Elephants on Parade. The sequence is very interesting, but the song itself is okay, I guess. The reason it's ranked so high is because it goes along with a very visually interesting sequence, but it's not bad. Then in B tier, we got Baby Mine and When I See an Elephant Fly. Didn't know where exactly to rank these, but I think B tier at the top of their list so far works. And yeah, I might swap them out. I like those songs quite a bit, but I don't love them enough to be in A or even S tier. Well, maybe be a while before we get anything in the A tier, let alone the S tier, but we will see. But they work. Elephant Fly has problems of its own that I don't feel like discussing anymore. And Baby Mine, it's okay. I feel like it's reworked a little bit. It could be an A tier. But other than that, that's our song rank. While it's not as good as going on the Dumbo ride itself, going to my channel to check out my videos and subscribing, you might find entertaining, or you might say, no, you suck ass. It's up to you. Give a like, give a comment, and do all sorts of the YouTube crap. You can even click that bell. I don't care about saying the bell stuff, because seriously, who the heck clicks on the bell for people you're subscribed to? I don't, personally. Thank you for watching, and have a very swell day. Next time, we're looking at the last Golden Age film, Bam.